nice to have that interchange. So I want these. Now, so I brought the sample of my collection. This is not it. I have a lot of students who are working on zines for their final year projects. They have plundered my collection. So this is the stuff that's left over. These do not belong. These do live here. This is a collection of both professional and locals, but also where my students have produced. So I'm just going to pass around, and I will also show you some. Those around to. Because I'd like you to see, like, there's a lot of variety in just these, maybe 2 dozen things I thought of. Variety in both, like, what they physically look like, and also their double sort of professional, how professional they are. And then the topics, I definitely edited my collection to have largely split through the needs here for you to see, but you can run all sorts of topics. And so I wanted to, while you guys look at those and pass those around, to show you a couple of unusual ones that I have in my collection. And I'll start, I'm not going to do it in any particular. So this is one of the smallest ones. We're actually going to do something very similar to this today, called the mini zine. This is very nice. So I can read it like this by opening the book. I open it like that, open it like that. It's actually really lovely. I'll pass this around too, but then I can keep opening it and keep opening it and keep opening it, and it becomes a double-sided piece of art. Wow. As you can see, I can kind of keep them folded. So in this particular zine, she has chosen to make it both a front and a back. But there's also an internal storyline, and there's a storyline on the other side. But when I fold it all back up, as I'm doing right now, let's see, so this is a student book. As you can see, it's just an envelope, and inside the envelope is the zine. It was a series of like little letters they sent to their friends about how they appreciate it. Like very clever use of stuff you probably already have around your house, probably already have a bunch of envelopes you're not using for anything that you can then basically do a little letter-based scheme. This is another super tiny one. This is actually a little closer to what I expect you guys to produce today. And you can see it has like one tiny image in the front, and then it's just text on the inside. This is a poetry piece. This is a first poem. They went to publish it as a booklet, and it has just 2 very simple, very universal pieces of art that go along with this poem.
Thank you very much for this easy introduction and the process. So, my question is, I'm trying to. So, the philosophy story is.
What a good question. Thank you. No, there's that's an excellent question. Zines can do a bunch of different things. There's a format called photo zines. I think I might have one in my collection, but I also think I have exposed it out, which is really just people's photographs. That's it. That is what it is. They're photographs written out. Often, I would say that the story is the wrong word. It's usually the narrative. So that might be a story, it might be a poem. The difference between the name and the informational template that you make the government office is that bit of narration, but that narration could be images, it could be story, it could be poems, it could be anything, but there is something that's embedding the little tiny piece of work. Do we have other questions? So let's see, some other things that I got here. So I already passed out the smallest zine collection. This is actually the second largest one. I've also encouraged you as I pass it around to like feel the paper. You can see some of them like really glossy, slick, like magazine style paper. Those This is about flowers. So this is a version of illustrations about flowers. So maybe we can say as a narration that maybe more than that, there's a theme. There's a theme, there's a reason we put together the zine. It's not just like, I guess you could just do a random collection of images, and the theme is a random collection of images. I want to show you this one because this is a something done by one of our students, the art performance, and this is like very, look how easy it is. Pieces of paper that have been folded and stapled, and inside is one of our students' stuff that she learned in her performance class. Little tiny snippets, right, and some information about the artist. You can see this one's a little thicker than the others. This is a little tiny zine about how to read Carol. One of the reasons I want to like the topic, the subject matter, one is so radically different. I don't collect like my topic, that's not really I'm kind of interested in execution, so there's a lot of writing here. Although I am myself a writer, so like I tend to go towards writing zines, but I want to show these last two. So this one, I picked up in Thailand. Thailand has a very strong zine underground culture, and it's actually a zine put together by a relatively famous rock star in Thailand, who is very famous for being both like a very popular music star, but he's also like a sketcher, and he draws. But I just make money doing that, and he was famous for when we would go out and behave, like at a coffee shop or whatever. One of the tips he would leave for the waiters and waitresses was a hand-drawn image on the receipt that they could then sell. And when someone got a whole, like I heard about this, they actually said that we do a collection, a zine collection. So look, this is a envelope that you would receive your receipt for. That's the design of this. And then these each are receipts from things he bought and ordered that he's drawn on. I love this as an idea, as a way to be like, a zine doesn't even have to be like a staple piece of paper. It could be like a bunch of receipts that you've collected over the years. Think about like maybe movies you might have gone to with your family, or dates you've gone on with your husband or your wife or your boyfriend or your girlfriend, and how you could save those things and turn that into like the story of you dating, or the story of you going out. Or I'm somebody who loves movies. I have a lot of like movie stuff that I've saved over the years. Just think about times I went to the movies together. And then this last one, this is also student work. So yeah, I have it like this, right? And actually, it's like, well, we call it in the US, a key term, I know we want to work from here. So, this is how the design is.
Nice.
You get, open it up some more, and we open it up some more, and we open it up some Sure. Oh, yeah.
My question is, if we have 500 word story, and if I want to make the zine of 500 word stories, then how many words should I use out of 500 to make a zine of that story? Story can be anything.
You can use all 500. Why not? Why not use all 500? Maybe not on one page. So, when we're thinking of, let's say you have a 500-word story, let's say you have a poem, let's say you have just some pictures of like your mom that you would like to present to her like on Mother's Day, or her birthday, or whatever other reason you might give your mom a present. You decide, right? Like how many pages do you want your 500-word story to be? In particular, like if I was looking at a story I wrote, I will be looking at like the action of the story and probably break out pages to map with the action. For something like if my mom, I really make sure that she had like one lovely photo on each page so she could open it up and look through stuff. It's very text heavy. And it's pretty long relatively compared to some of these other ones. But it is literally a zine about self-defense. You need to know a lot of information about it. So it's longer. So sometimes form comes after function, and I would say that form and function and any kind of design project have to be married to each other. So if you have a longer story, your zine is gonna be longer, or you're using the uses both sides of it. Please.
Thanks. Firstly, Christie, thank you so much. Like, I feel like we've been doing scenes all our life without knowing we've been doing scenes.
Yes.
Right? I mean, I think this was one of the first art projects that our teachers would tell us to do, right? But I have a question, so I'm curious. We talked about how the most important element of scenes is the fact that you can feel it in the physical form, right? And the fact that it comes from many different things, right? Like a lot of different resources. For me, the most impactful thing that would probably make me connect is what was the material of the paper it was chosen from. So maybe from a newsletter that was published in 1995, as opposed to like a magazine article that just came out in 2024, right? Because that's when the paper itself narrates the story and its own history, right? Do you think that gets lost when you print these out? Because I was kind of looking through a few, especially the envelope one I got written. It was like such a basic, classic zine material, right? But do you think that kind of gets lost? Because right now in the digital times, Canva is precisely, we're doing digital zines all the time, right? We're picking up multiple resources, putting them in one place, and that can also be good. So
I think it's a really good question, and I can only answer from my position as somebody who's like in their 40s and grew up in a different culture. I like the feel of non-polished zines, like in my hands, better than I like the beautifully illustrated ones. I do appreciate everything that goes into like the really nice ones, but very slick. Like I love that red receipt. I think that is just so clever. It's so neat, and frankly, they had to change the paper the receipts on because like. As I was going through this, I was going through my collection of receipts that I've been collecting to do something like that. And a lot of the ink has like burned off and now they're just white pieces of paper. Yeah. So like some of that is a consideration. How do I replicate? How do I go forward? But just as a personal thing, I do like the tactileness of being able to touch like slightly rough paper. I'm surrounded in my life by things that are always perfect. And unfortunately for my students, I'm often pushing them to do things that are very perfect because I'm trying to get them to their senior showcase so they can go out and get a job. And not everybody appreciates their like cut and piece stuff that I do. Or alternatively, they're going for that, I'm pushing them to make that look the way they really could. So from a personal standpoint, I like the little rougher stuff better, but I'm aware that's partly informed by like how I grew up doing these things. The other bit I would say about it is the thing that the reason I do classes on this here, the reason I kind of preach is the wrong word. The reason I encourage people to take Zine-Making is because the idea that you have access to it. Literally, all you need is a single piece of paper and something to put on that piece of paper. That's it, you're done. And to me, that is so important. Even though we have things like X, we have things like Facebook, right? I think everybody should know that they're creative. They can put something out there. Are they all the same? No. Are they all like important? No. One of the things that's in there is a zine about somebody's cat. Like they just did a zine about their cat. You know, I love it. Is it changing the world? No, it's not changing the world. But they love their cat. They made a little book about it, and I'm very pro them. My cat. My cat. We spend so much time like justifying and commercializing and selling when we can also just like sometimes sit down and help them, right?
I feel you're being very humble about it, Christie. I think you're being very humble about it because I feel like there's so much value in this, right? I love the way you put it, like it's a democratic access to knowledge and stuff, right? And that kind of, when I think of Zine-Making, it's a lot about making the best use of whatever resources one has, right? And we all know that the world does not have a fair distribution of resources. So we can either work with the mindset that, oh, I did not get
to this place in life because I did not have resources versus I made the best use of whatever I had. And I'm trying to make the maximum amount of impact through it, whether that's just about talking about your cat, because for a lot of people that adds a lot of value, that might just make their lives better. Right?
I'm glad you said that, and I'm going to say that's my other thing about it. Zines in particular, as I mentioned, and kind of didn't really go into, because that's not really the point of this workshop, they are also very important to marginalized voices and marginalized culture, because people in power always have access to power. And power isn't just like the ability to like turn our electricity on and off, right? Power is also like the means to get our word out and our voice out. So these kinds of things, where I can sit in my room and like come up with something important like that. I'm going to go back to the AIDS example because I cannot emphasize enough how important that was. Millions of men died, mostly men in the United States died because we couldn't have given a shit. That's the answer. And so for themselves, for their own survival, they had to let each other know what the signs and the symptoms of the disease were. And to me, that is what's the important thing. Like, yeah, I can make a scene about my cat, I can make a scene, there's one in there where I really love that is all her friends' fries order down. Like, I love that so much. There's one in there about like Taylor, I think one of Taylor Swift's albums, there's a bunch of stuff in there. Yeah, that's fun too, but sometimes, particularly for marginalized communities, there are vital, important things that need to get out. Resistance, like, I will just, because I'm American, I'll just use American examples. Resistance to police brutality. Political options, right? How to vote. Like, right now, I'm 2 weeks down from the American election. I am very stressed about it. And one of the things that people do often is put out, like, little tiny scenes of, like, how to register to vote. It's important, it's vital. So, yeah, they are silly little paper books, but they're also really important. And I also want to say, like, but I also think personal expression is important too. I do, in fact, rank these things as equally important. Some reasons I really want to see. As you can see, this is like a picture from like a relatively recent bookstore. I went to. These things are just produced all the time. Plenty. More people come in and will be out for this producing. So there's something about these items that is still really a connected people. And we're going to. So this is the making part of the workshop. We are going to do like a very simple, very accessible scene together. Usually my workshops, I let the topics be self-chosen, but I have in advance chosen a theme for you guys to make scenes around. And that theme is place. So I'm going to get to this part in a second, but on your tables in front of you, you have a box that has some rulers, a box that has lines and crayons, a box that has scissors, piles of paper of various different colors. You should have all the magazines you can pile off. You have glue sticks, you have staplers on these tables. And the reason all this is here is so if you don't have any beautiful draws, pile up the magazine and make it a picture out of yourself. But the theme that you're going to do is something about place. The place you define as you. That could be here at the university. The place could be like your mother's house, or the place could be your own house. The place could be anything. You can define that as broadly, but I am doing it that's the thing. So before we get there, we're going to practice the one skill you might need to learn in Zine-Making, which is how to properly do it. And I know that sounds silly, but I promise there's a reason behind it. So, this is your sample work. Please pass it along. This is going to fold into what we call a mini EAP. Obviously, I just told you not to. Excuse me. I'm going to do something slightly There's also obviously the verse here where we get that. So, I put this down and I need to use my hand, so hopefully you can hear me. Let me know. The first thing we're going to do is fold the paper in half. And you want to, now you try that on my sheet. You want to try and make the edges fold up as cleanly and neatly as you humanly possibly can. You want them to match up as much as possible. You do not want to have a sloppy fold. Right? And then you really want to work this into a nice, clean, and it will help you out later. Okay? We're going to reopen it. We're going to fold it in half in the other direction. Whatever direction you folded the first time, fold it. So either long ways or short ways, you fold it the other way. Now, and again, you want to try and make sure the edges are lined up as humanly possible, and then you make that crease as fine as you can, as nice and sharp. Cut butter with it. Good. We're opening it back out. We're going back to the original from the first fold, and we're folding it in half again. And if you did it right, you just open it back up. Just get the folds don't exactly line up for the wrong direction or the way that I do that, but more or less are in the same area as the lines. You all need access to either a pair of scissors or I guess you can grab them. So there's scissors in the box on the table. That's for the next one. Okay, you all at equals. Folding it back long ways. Actually, no, I'm going to do it. Folding it, it's easier to do this way. Fold it down just a little short. You can see on your piece of paper, there's and you listen to it. You're cutting there, you're not cutting all the way to the end of the paper. You're cutting right here in this middle to right where the scissors are. And you're able to release. Okay.
चलो I'll experiment with him.
Okay, we're doing this now. You see, this is the only real tricky part. Okay.
Okay.
We're folding back. And we are on this side. You're pinching it the best way this side. Trying to make it go right. Exactly that. And you're kind of push it. See, this is going to go from here to here, and then you fit it correctly. I cannot do it. So just to answer your why I'm saying not very sure. Okay. Now the question is going
So you do this, pinch it together, yes, and then you apply that over all these things. Make the front, back on the back.
that is a thing. Now, the side here, I put that has these things on there, so when you do all this folding, right? Like square one and square two, do not activate the next to each other in the top. So you need to know where to place things to make sure that your story makes sense when you fold everything back. So how we're actually together, you know. Page 1, page 2 are together, but then
Yes.
we flip it and bring it on the other side, so that everybody gets order again. So we're not necessarily working on these, because there's more than one basic piece of paper, you can use the template.
Yeah.
But this is also just a guideline for you. So, take paper. Everybody has at least one piece of paper.
Yeah.
You can use that if you like, or you can get another, here's plain paper on the tables, right here, underneath this. And also on the table, there are, again, there's printouts. There's maps of Pakistan, there are maps of Karachi.
Guys, today we will clean it. Okay, are you ready now? Yes. Are you going to do this without any hesitation? Full time?
बने नहीं
नहीं, 9 actually.
लाइन को रहने से ऐसे फोल्ड करते हैं मैंने लाइन भी आगे पीछे हो गई थी थोड़ी सी हाँ आगे पीछे हो गया
Not in
Or Ogopa. I'm also